Everyone, and Ed here. So we will start this show just in a few seconds. First, we'd like to welcome everyone back to listening our show. We took a short break, and now we're starting our first episode of season 2. And also, the topic is probably the most matching one with our show title called Make and Play, because today we'll be talking about the emerging trending metaverse game called Sandbox, which is literally a game where you can make your own world or sub-game inside the world and play your game or games created by other developers. So first, I would like to introduce my co-host of this show, Ed. Would you like to maybe give a short self-introduction?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on, Roger. I'm Ed. I'm one of the founders of Squiggly School, and we're a Metaverse Academy. So we're landowners in the Sandbox, and we're basically trying to bring as many people in to the Metaverse as possible, whether as designers, as builders, as people who can monetize their own assets. We're here to teach as much as we can. We've been using the Sandbox Game Maker and VoxEdit asset creation tool in elementary and middle school classrooms. And we're pretty familiar with the tools. Happy to talk about it. There's a ton going on. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So I guess we'll start with the first section here. So first, I'll just give a very brief introduction of what is Sandbox. So actually, Sandbox started as a mobile game in 2012. Just as its name suggested, it's a mobile game where you can create your own version of mini games and play. So you can see the idea already started almost 10 years ago. And then later on in, I believe it's around 2018 at that time, they started developing a metaverse version of that game. And also they moved from the mobile platform to the desktop platform. And let's see. So in terms of, the development of the company, they got a few rounds of big investment with funds from companies like Square Enix. So that's a big Japanese game company. They also have investment from SoftBank and many other big investors. And let's see what else I have here. So I also have a link in the show notes, which I'll post later. But just look at this is a fundraise campaign from the Republic, popular fundraising platform. So they have this metaverse land portfolio, which kind of shows you like where they think the most valuable metaverse land will be at. So if you look at the breakdown, you can see that they spend about 40% of their investment in Sandbox compared to about like 20% each in like Axie Infinity and Decentraland. So obviously the real estate or like virtual real estate people think that Sandbox is probably right now the hottest metaverse you can hop in terms of, investment and value wise. So that's a brief introduction of Sandbox. I don't know if Ed, you have anything brief to add here?
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is a couple numbers. If you go on OpenSea and you look at top virtual worlds by volume, Decentraland is number 1, and it has about twice the volume of the Sandbox, which is number 2 all time. Decentraland has been around since 2017 and has been pretty much the proof of concept of like, here's what a decentralized video game looks like. But if you look at the past 30 days, the Sandbox has over 4 times the volume of Decentraland. And the game is still in its alpha version. But yeah, that's the other.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's maybe talk a little bit more about the roadmap. So basically the past, current, and future of the Sandbox. Trying to find the roadmap. Yep, here it is. So you can go to sandbox.game /roadmap. So maybe we can have a little bit discussion here. I don't know, Ed, you want to maybe start something interesting here?
Yep, definitely. So again, the company behind all of this was founded in 2011. And here's a game studio that has released a couple of really successful mobile games. And we'll talk about mobile being on the roadmap for the Sandbox 3D version, which is pretty cool. But the thing that we're in right now is the alpha version has launched, which basically, like, if you play it, it's pretty much confined to a couple of experiences built by basically Sandbox, the art team there, to make sure that it's high quality. They, as of today, literally as of 7 hours ago, the Sandbox just released staking between Polygon and Sand. So Decentraland is run on the token called Mana. The Sandbox is run on the token called Sand. Right now, the Sandbox is using layer 1 Ethereum, and like gas prices are ridiculous to do anything. And they're moving to Polygon, which is a layer 2 chain. And so as of today, they're starting to give rewards out to incentivize people who add to the liquidity between Polygon and Sand. So that's kind of something exciting for the early adopters. There's a lot to be made there if you have some liquidity, but what they're really trying to build towards is in 2022, that's next year, there's going to be a lot of super exciting stuff, starting out with they're going to launch a DAO. If you're familiar with the Ethereum name service, the ENS airdrop, basically the early adopters who bought like a Roger.eth ENS name, they were awarded these governance tokens, and those were worth real money. So the Sandbox is going to do that basically for sand holders, for land holders, and people who own stuff in the Sandbox universe. In Q2 of next year, they're going to launch a DAO, which means people now have governance and ownership over the future of the company, which is going to be pretty cool. They're going to launch a couple virtual concerts, which is not that new because Roblox and Fortnite have already done it. But the most exciting thing about next year is by Q4, they're going to release on mobile. And this is a company that knows how to build a successful mobile franchise. I'm really excited because I've played the game a decent amount, and on PC it's fun, but thinking about adoption, I think the biggest thing the Sandbox is going to add next year is mainstream adoption of a game because of the gameplay. And then people will learn about crypto tangentially through just playing the mobile game. So I'm really excited about that. The other thing worth mentioning is right now there are two components that make the Sandbox really attractive as a metaverse. First one is the no-code game engine. Basically, they've built a way to create intuitive game experiences. It's pretty much hack and slash and like jump puzzle. Right now it's limited to those, but it's cool because you can set the behavior of NPCs and you can build Minecraft type world at scale really quickly. That's the first thing, is a no-code game engine is awesome. That's why we went long on the Sandbox early, and that's why we're super bullish about it in the long term. The second is they have what's called Vox Edit. So the Sandbox has a asset creation tool called Vox Edit where you can easily put together a bunch of 3D pixels and then sell them as NFTs. When it comes to the game maker, right now, it's all no code. So it's like drag and drop. And if you have logic, you're just going to click on some parameters, between multiple choice. We found that to be really enticing, basically, to get kids into computer science because it's pretty easy to jump into. But TBD 2022 on their roadmap, they're going to add a couple of things that I think are going to be just groundbreaking. The first off is co-building mode in the game engine. Imagine like Google Docs, right? Like you and a couple of friends are writing out a paper or whatever, but you're building a game. That's going to be huge. And then also they're going to add custom scripting. So you can start adding code to the no-code engine. It's all built in Unity, but I love the fact that they're giving more freedom and more control. So I think that's going to really increase the diversity of the types of games that we.
Yeah, thank you so much for all these very helpful explanation and information. Just to add a little bit to the developer side, so reading the specs requirements for like the game maker, but probably also very similar for playing a game. So right now it looks like the minimum you need is like more than like maybe less than 2-year-old laptop. At least I think usually desktop is preferred. And if you're using a laptop, you definitely want to have a gaming laptop. And just from our own personal experience, like opening the game maker or the game on Windows machine, we definitely found out that it's a little bit laggy if we're just using a regular, pretty new like Windows laptop, but without a graphics card, because those are like mostly for office work, or I should say at least without a dedicated graphics card. So if you want to get into the Sandbox, whether it's, building a game or playing a game, right now the best option would probably just be getting a new gaming laptop or using a desktop. That would be a suggestion. And now I want to maybe switch the gear a little bit. Can maybe talk a bit more about how the Sandbox works right now for like business, and also what are some of the like future for business to like develop or like branch into the metaverse. Maybe I would just throw a few topics here because I heard some really cool news like companies like I believe Adidas are right now just buying huge like lots of land, but they haven't done anything significant yet. I also know that Snoop Dogg has a pretty significant presence in Sandbox, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Snoop Dogg is like in every venture possible. I don't know how he does it. He's like on 3 different crypto projects right now. But yeah, so sorry if there's any background noise, but basically Snoop Dogg and Adidas both just partnered with the Sandbox, and someone just bought a property in the Snoop Dogg area for $500,000. But at the end of the day, like right now, the most important, if there's one takeaway you have from this episode, it's that there is a land rush right now. And I think we're probably at the tail end of it, where companies, brands, and people are starting to realize that, wait a minute, this virtual real estate might be valuable one day. Let's get in early. Now the next rush is going to be, what do we put on that land? I can guarantee you that Adidas does not have employees who know how to use Vox Edit or the Game Maker to create experiences that represent their brand. Neither does Snoop Dogg. And so the big takeaway is there's a lot of people buying land, but the analogy is this. Like if you were to actually play Decentraland right now and you were to walk around this metaverse, the vast majority of it is empty land. Like people are not making use of their land because there is a shortage of people who know how to build games and virtual experiences that represent brands. And so, I mean, this is something that we're trying to solve, is just the labor shortage when it comes to people who know how to populate these plots of virtual land. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people moving into it. And I think there's so much hype around the land that there's not enough discussion about like, okay, like what do we actually do now that we...
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good point. Just to add a little bit to this topic, I read the news that Nike, they just bought kind of like a 3D design studio that specializes in designing like NFT like sneakers, which are basically like virtual sneakers. And I know that studio, the founder said they were actually originally inspired by Nike to, start basically a sneaker giant inside a metaverse for, all kinds of platforms. So here we can definitely see like even for like big companies like Nike, they're definitely also trying to enter the metaverse. I believe they have some presence in Decentraland, maybe, and even they don't have at this moment the right, expertise to do all these like metaverse development. So they need to, get more talents through this acquisition of the studio, which was actually originally inspired by them. Yeah, so that's a very interesting world we're living right now. So that actually brings us to the last question here. And after this one, we can take a few questions from the audience. If they have any questions, feel free just to use the calling queue to raise any questions. So if someone is right now completely new to metaverse, and let's say they are not planning to spend crazy amount of money to actually do any investment, but they want to maybe be a developer for a certain platform, what are some of the universal skills they can pick up to help them transition to this role?
Yeah, that's an awesome last question. The way I think about it is the past decade, every single brand, Nike, Adidas, Google, Facebook, every single company hired a lot of 2D designers and engineers because they created two-dimensional storefronts. They created two-dimensional websites to represent their brands. And the biggest thing right now is that we're going through a transition where the internet of the future is going to be three-dimensional. And so the skills naturally are how do we design, how do we build, and how do we develop in 3 dimensions? And so that's going to, from a very practical perspective, Blender is how we create 3D objects for free, pretty much. Ton of YouTube tutorials out there. Basically, right now, I think the way I think about it is there's so much excitement around augmented reality fashion. Roger, like you talked about, the Artifact acquisition that happened 2 days ago. And at the end of the day, it's any skill that we can develop right now that'll allow us to design and build in 3 dimensions. Because truly, I think that the internet that's being built on Web3 is going to be one that's more interactive, more fun, and more exciting to, buy a new pair of Nike shoes by walking up to a virtual storefront and just clicking on it through that game, which will then link you to a website where you can buy them. You buy the physical shoes. So I think 3D skills are going to be, they already are. There's a big shortage right now of designers for voxel art in the Sandbox specifically, like 3D pixels. But then when you go to animation and design and creation, those are the first things that I think of. There's a ton more. And I'm sure if y'all in the audience have any ideas, I'd love to hear those as well. But that's,
yeah, sounds good. I guess we'll just take a question.
Hey, Ed. Hey, Roger. Ed, I've been kind of following your progress with Sandbox and, want to invest. Well, not with Sandbox, but with Squiggly and all the stuff you've been doing at Sandbox. What I'm curious about is, I've been in the crypto and NFT space for a while now, and I'm seeing it as really this place where investors congregate, right? You're in the space because you want to make money, you want to shill the things you build, and so on and so forth. And obviously you're coming in with Squiggly as making it like the metaverse, making NFTs, making the Web3 the place for builders, and really moving away from that investor mindset. How do you think that's going to happen?
Yeah, how we move away from a cash grab to long-term just building cool stuff and sharing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. We're trying, I think, yeah. Roger, do you have any?
I think the key here is you need to have a community rather than just some short-term interaction with people, because I think Sandbox, we don't know if they will still be the leading platform like in 2 years. That's really hard to predict because, like even we saw those big like crypto or like VR, AR trends, they usually like come and go every like 2 or 3 years. So yeah, you can't really just like rely on one single platform or one single trend to, succeed as a company or group. I think if you just have this group of like real human beings that centers around you, then I feel like you have a bigger chance to succeed even when you are like have to, switch platforms every 2 or 3 years. So that's just my personal take here. So yeah, maybe in like 3 years we have another thing coming up, but if we just have the people around in like let's say a Discord server, then I think it would be pretty easy to just switch and start something new.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, like the way I'm thinking about this is like you've already got crypto NFT communities like Bored Ape Yacht Club, like CryptoPunks, etc., that have their own dedicated Discords, right? That's really where the Web3 space is living. And obviously they've got some really, really cool communities, Constitution DAO, etc. But I'm thinking like the way I still think about it is like this is a space for people with money or people who want to make money to get together and do cool stuff with money.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe someone can build this, but that would be so cool if there's not only an educational platform of like, hey, here's actually how to build, how to sell things to people with more money than they know what to do with, but also if there's like liquidity providers. You know what I mean? Like if you need some X token in order to confirm a transaction, right? Like you need, for example, Sand in order to sell an NFT on the Sandbox. Not only if that education company taught them how to do that, but maybe gave them like a short-term loan or provided the liquidity, I'm all for it. I think that it absolutely right now, the state of, I think, Web3 that I've seen, and some of you've probably seen this too, is that like the wealth is just going to the existing like multimillionaires and whale investors and VCs. And it's like, okay, let's bring in the normal people. I think there's huge opportunity there. I think you can start a movement around it.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think we'll probably just hang out here for another 1 or 2 minutes in case there are more questions from the audience. But otherwise, thank you so much to everyone who listened to this episode. And we're definitely going to release more episodes in the near future, not just on games and Web3, but also other many interest topics. I did a series last year on some of the, just this past year, on some of the popular Chinese mobile apps. I would love to do something similar again, maybe on like the crypto world of China, since now they were used to be really big, probably even bigger than US, but now, since the ban, they've been kind of going underground, but it would be interesting to dig a little bit more into those huge like Chinese companies or companies that are started by Chinese people but are now international. So definitely more interesting content to come up in the near future. And thanks again for listening. We'll definitely list all the links and news we mentioned in the show notes when we publish this episode later. Yeah, thank you, Ed, and thank you, the audience, for listening. Hope you guys have a good day.